They are perhaps the most essential element in anyone's life. Without them, we would be lonesome, and our days would seem endless and daunting. Everyone needs someone to confide in, or share their fears and favorite moments with. Bonds form the fabric in the business world as well, as alliances and associations are what help a venture get off the ground, thrive, and keep customers for life. Our connections can shape our behavior and personality, and even make us live longer, healthier lives when they're reciprocal.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
We'll wax on about relationships on this week's episode of FYI.
Welcome to For Your Info.
En inglés.
You got it.
Another exciting episode of FYI, and today we're going to tackle relationships. And as I said in the intro, they are probably the most essential element in basically anyone's life. And it's true, without them we would be lonesome. Lonesome is another way of saying lonely. I used it on purpose because, as you guys know, I love putting all different vocabulary and expressions in the intro, and obviously throughout the rest of the episode as well. And then I said, without these relationships, we would be lonesome, and our days would seem endless and daunting. And I know you know endless, sin fin, but daunting is intimidating. Abrumador, sobrecogedor, desmoralizante. Hey, those are some difficult words to say in Spanish. Well, in English, it's daunting. And it's true. Everyone needs someone to confide in, to trust in, someone to share their fears, their deepest, darkest fears, and also the good moments as well. And we'll talk about friends who are there for only the good moments. We have a name for them in English. Do you know it? They're called fair weather friends. Friends that if you call them with a problem, they're nowhere to be found. But we'll talk about a lot of idiomatic expressions that have to do with all kinds of relationships, not just friendships. But let's continue with our intro for now. Then I use the word bond. A bond is a special connection. I think you say un vínculo. And we use it as a verb too. I love bonding with my daughter. And that's kind of like creating memories and moments together. But it's not just the basis of a family relationship or a romantic relationship. It also forms the fabric in the business world as well. As we all know, alliances and associations are very important in business. I even heard someone say, business equals relationships, period. The British say, full stop. And the word alliances, just be careful. I've heard people mispronounce it. Alliance, and the person is an ally. You say aliado, not to be confused with alley. Alley is a dark little road which usually doesn't have an exit, like a dead end or a space between buildings. The word we're looking at is ally, alliances. And then I use the word venture, which is another way of saying a project or a business. I said it can help you get a venture off the ground. And I think you say the same thing or something similar in Spanish, but that means to get something started. Also to thrive. I can give you another word, to prosper, to thrive. And also the hardest part, not just getting customers, but keeping them for life and keeping them happy. That, my friends, is all about relationships and people skills. I also said our connections can help shape our behavior and personality. And we'll look at the sociology and psychology as well. And, believe it or not, relationships, healthy ones, can even make us live longer lives. Obviously, if they are reciprocal. And we'll talk about the dark side as well. We'll talk about abusive relationships because unfortunately, all relationships aren't ideal. Very few are. But it's like everything. You've got to work at it. You got to put time and effort into it. That's how you're improving your English. Well, you want to improve your relationship with your wife or your husband or your sister. Well, you got to put some time and energy into it. I believe those ingredients are necessary for anything in life. And relationships are like trees. They're like plants. You know, one of my hobbies lately is gardening. And if you take care of it, you give it a little attention, you nurture it, well, that little plant, that little sprout becomes a big tree one day. And I guess we could apply that to relationships as well. And then we heard a movie quote. And I know we looked at English in movies a while back, but does anyone know where this movie quote comes from? I'll ask my student who knows most about movies, my movie queen, Chris Valrol. Do you know it? I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. It is the last line of the classic movie Casablanca. And we looked at it in the movie episode. Do you remember the line? Me importa un bledo, francamente. Did you say, frankly, I don't give a damn? Or actually, I think the full line is, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. That movie gave us a lot of lines. And then I wrapped up saying we'll wax on about relationships. And that reminds me of another movie line. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off, Daniel-san. But also to wax on about something is to talk in depth about it. So, what are relationships? We might as well define them if they're so important. Maybe it'll help us understand them better. According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, humans need to feel love, sexual and non-sexual, and acceptance from social groups. So that's family or peer groups. We talk about our peers, nuestros iguales. In fact, the need to belong is so innately ingrained, inculcado. That's a word I learned doing this show. Remember, I'm learning Spanish too, guys. So yeah, everybody wants to belong. It is an innate thing. It's ingrained in us since we're babies. Relationships are also important for their ability to help people develop a sense of self. It shows you your place in the world. There's nobody like a good friend or a family member who can put you in your place because nobody knows you better. That's also something that can make them push your buttons, and nobody likes it when you push their buttons. But nobody knows how to push your buttons like a good friend or family member. And relationships are part of an individual's self-concept, so it even affects the way we see ourselves and the way we interact with others. So in other words, one's emotions and behaviors are shaped by relationships, especially prior relationships. Do you want to know where all your problems come from? Your parents. It's not because your parents are bad people. No. It's because those are the first people you saw. So whatever quirks, whatever things they did or didn't do really affected you, whether you like it or not. That was the first relationship you ever had. So if somebody is needy in a relationship, it's probably because they didn't get enough attention from their parents. Again, I'm not a psychologist, but they say the root of a lot of people's issues with themselves and other people come from prior relationships, namely their first ones, their parents. And as a parent, that puts a lot of responsibility on you. I always say it with my daughter. She's not just listening to my words, she's watching my actions. And I strive every day to have a healthy, understanding, loving relationship with my daughter and, of course, my wife, my immediate family. If not, it could be a living hell. Imagine if we were always arguing, we didn't respect each other, we were shouting at each other, and sadly, many people live in these kind of vicious cycles, these relationships that are abusive. So, let's look at it. What are the pillars of a healthy relationship? I just typed that into Google, and the first one is, are you ready for this? I think we need a drum roll. Communication. It's what we're working on here every week. So it's important to be a clear communicator, not just in English, but also in your own language. And to not beat around the bush. Be honest with yourself and with others. Number 2, trust. How can you have a relationship with somebody you can't trust? Are you a trustworthy person? I try to be a man of my word because I think that is one of the essential pillars. And I don't think anybody will disagree with me there, whether you're a trustworthy person or not. Next on the list, respect. How can you love somebody? How can you live with somebody? How can you call somebody your friend, your brother, if you don't respect them? And again, if you don't respect them, maybe you have a deeper issue that you don't really respect yourself. A lot of the way we treat others is a reflection on how we feel ourselves. Next up, commitment. You say compromiso. I commit to being with you. I don't want to be with another person. I commit my time, my energy to you. Careful with that word. It is a false friend because we have another thing, and it's compromise. And to compromise is ceder, to give and take. So careful with those false friends. Honesty, which honesty I think is directly linked to trust. Equality. Does your wife do all the housework? Do you do all the housework? I don't think anybody should do all the housework. Whoever can get it done gets it done. There are days when I do more than my wife. There are days when my wife does more than me. The important thing is nobody's counting. We're doing it for the team. We always say, Team Lara. So you don't want to do things reluctantly. You want to do them with a smile on your face because you want to, not because you feel like you have to. Your relationship shouldn't be obligations. If they are, maybe you should take a look at those relationships. Again, don't take any advice from me because I'm not a psychiatrist or anything like that. But I have had my share of good relationships and really bad relationships. I'm a very trusting person, so people have screwed me over time and time again. And now I'm teaching my daughter to be tough and to not trust people easily because I want her to learn from maybe some of my mistakes, which I don't really think they're mistakes. We're always trying to find that balance between being, somebody who's trusting but not being gullible, or being, reluctant but not being paranoid. Another one is being friends. Even if your wife, you have that sexual attraction, which, as we will talk about, that sometimes fades. But again, if you don't work on it, what's going to happen to the plant if you don't give it water? It's going to wither and die. But being best friends, well, besties, that's what we call ourselves in my family. Lara's my bestie. My wife is my bestie. Together, they're my besties, mis mejorcitos. So aside from being my daughter, my wife, I enjoy spending time with them. We laugh, we tell jokes, we have a friendly relationship. Now, when my daughter starts saying, bro, I'm like, I'm not your bro, I'm your dad. I don't know where she picked that up. She's 4.5 years old and she's calling her dad bro. I don't think so, kid. And that'll bring me to our next thing, boundaries. Your space starts and where mine does. I don't mean go around your house with a tape measure and measure everything. But everybody has their limits, their boundaries, their personal space that they need. Even your children. Nobody wants to be hounded. Hounded is acosado. Also, you need to have a sense of safety in any relationship. You need to feel safe, protected. I know if somebody tries to break into my house, I'm not even going to flinch. I'm going to get up, grab a knife, and go after that person. So my wife, my daughter, and myself, so we can feel safe. Also, it's having things in common. That doesn't mean you have to be like exactly the same, like two peas in a pod, como dos gotas de agua, but you have to have some things that you like to do together. Like my wife and I, for example, she doesn't like aviation, but that is wonderful because aviation, that's my time. She doesn't like roller coasters. That's my time. By the way, our final episode of FYI is coming up. I should say the final episode of season 6, and it's going to be on coasters. But that's my thing. It's not her cup of tea. It's right up my alley. We looked at the word alley earlier. Es justo lo que me gusta a mí. But then we have things that we love to do together. We love going to the movies. We love talking about certain topics. So I don't think you have to be exactly the same. In fact, they say opposites attract. But then you also have to respect each other's differences. And my wife, even though she doesn't understand how I can just watch videos of planes taking off and landing, she respects it. Okay, she teases me, but remember, we said that the people who love you the most are the ones who know how to push your buttons. I think you say tocarte las narices, but it's always in a joking, fun way, never malicious. We already said compromise, not to be confused with commitment. Also humility. Sometimes you just got to be humble. You don't have to win everything. I always say being right is so overrated. Está sobrevalorado tener la razón. If being happy is option B, then I'll take option B. So sometimes maybe I want something and my wife wants something else. In the end, I think, how important is this on the grand scale of things? In fact, if we're doing something that my wife likes to do and she's smiling, that makes me smile. When I see my daughter doing something or having fun, that makes me smile. So my happiness doesn't only come from me, it comes from them. Seeing them happy, seeing them safe, seeing them communicating, and supporting each other. And don't forget about empathy. And there are many other pillars of a healthy relationship. But right now, we're going to move on to the different kinds of relationships. So first, we've got family. Those are the people you share the same blood with. So these are your siblings. Siblings is a good word because instead of saying, do you have any brothers or sisters? You can just say, do you have any siblings? So your siblings, your folks, your mom and your dad, that's your immediate family. Then you got your extended family, your aunts and uncles, your nieces and nephews, your in-laws if you're married. By the way, we looked at all of this in the family episode with my mom. Give it a listen. Because we are family. I got all my sisters and me. We are family. And in that song, they say a really good expression. They say we're like birds of a feather. And it comes from the expression, birds of a feather flock together. And honestly, the expression is so common that you can just say birds of a feather. So your family, technically the people that you are the closest to. But as we always say, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. And we also say, you can pick your friends, you can pick your nose, but don't pick your friend's nose. These are little sayings that we've been saying since we were kids. And I believe family, your blood family, that makes you who you are and affects you more than any other relationship in your life. As we said before, because it's the first, and it's when you're the most impressionable, when you're a little sponge. And don't forget, when we talk about family, too, you can have a stepdad or a stepmom. This is if there's a divorce and your parents get remarried. And then you can have a stepbrother or a stepsister. Now, a stepbrother or a stepsister, you don't have any blood in common with them. However, if you have a half-brother, that means you share one parent. It gets a little bit confusing. Let's talk a little bit about siblings because that's a really important relationship. I mean, even our best friends, we use the expression, my brother from another mother, or my sister from another mister. A shout out to my sister Natalia. What's up, Natalia? Sibling relationships have a profound effect on social, psychological, emotional, and academic outcomes. Although proximity and contact usually decreases over time, which is the case of my sister and I, we're separated by the Atlantic Ocean. We do talk every day, though, so the bond is still there because sibling bonds continue to have an effect throughout your whole life. Whether you have a good or a bad relationship with your brother or sister, that is one of the big ones, one of the ones that you'll carry around with you. And sibling bonds are one of the few enduring relationships humans may experience. And obviously the parent-child relationship affects it as well. Oh, your dad's favorite, your mom's favorite. Then there's that bickering. You're vying for your parents' attention. It's normal. It's called sibling rivalry. That doesn't mean you should beat each other up, but there's a normal competition that goes on. I've got to say, my sister, she says it all the time. She says, Alberto, you made my childhood fun. And I said, oh, wow, thanks. That's a really sweet comment. She goes, there was never a dull moment with you. We could be at the doctor's office in the waiting room, and you would be telling jokes or changing the lyrics to a song or putting on a funny voice. So I appreciate that. I guess I had a positive effect on my sister. And one never knows, and you don't know as a parent if you've done a good job. And even if you have done a good job, there are many other factors. What about these people who abandon their parents and go join a cult, which, by the way, we have an FYI episode on cults if you haven't listened to it. So that kind of sums up family relationships. Then we've got interpersonal relationships. And this is a strong, deep, or close association or acquaintance between two or more people. Oh, and there's a good word. So you know the word friends? Well, acquaintances are just a little bit further away from friends. So they're people you say hi to, you keep in touch with, but they're not technically your friends. I think you say conocidos. And a lot of different relationships fall into the interpersonal category. The main themes or trends you'll find are kinship, friendship, love, marriage, business, as we said in the intro, clubs, neighborhoods, and the analysis of relationships draws heavily upon social sciences, such as anthropology, linguistics, sociology, economics, political science, communication, mathematics, social work, cultural studies, and so much more. And the scientific analysis that originally evolved during the 1990s has become known as, very logically, relationship science. And as with every science, there are different theories. The third kind is romance or romantic love. And this is a connection between two people driven by love and or sexual attraction, maybe even lust. These relationships are usually more intimate, and there are a lot of theories over here as well. Two popular definitions of love are one called Sternberg's triangular theory of love and Fisher's theory of love. Now, Sternberg, the first guy, defines love in terms of intimacy, passion, and commitment. He claims that they exist in varying levels in different romantic relationships. Fisher, on the other hand, defines love as composed of three stages: attraction, romantic love, and attachment. And then, as many of you know, there are polyamorous people. There are people who are monogamous. Some people are in a throuple. Have you heard this one? This is when three people are dating. I haven't really figured out how that works, but it seems like anything goes. But really, if you break it down, all romantic relationships are based on openness or not. So do you have an open relationship where you can see other people or sleep with other people, or a closed relationship? Even some religions in the United States, they condone polygamy. And here's an interesting fun fact. Humans aren't the only species in the animal kingdom that practice monogamous relationships. Other animals out in the wild that practice monogamous relationships are beavers, otters, wolves, seahorses, and barn owls. These are animals that will generally have one partner throughout their whole life. And we'll take a look at a lot more fun facts in the bonus episode. We'll also take a look at business relationships. We'll also look at miscellaneous. We'll learn words such as frenemy, and we'll talk about bromances and all that jazz. And we'll talk about true love. Does true love really exist? Well, I believe it does. And I'll tell you that story in the bonus episode. It's the story of how my grandparents met. We'll talk about what those butterflies in your stomach are, and we'll also talk about the dark side. We'll talk about relationships in pop culture and tons of vocabulary and idiomatic expressions. All that in the bonus episode. And remember, guys, if you want access to the bonus episode every week, all you have to do is join us over on patreon.com/Alberto Alonso. There are over 200 of us learning and laughing together. And what a great group we've got. And not only do they get access to a bonus episode, they also get PDFs with all the vocabulary, and you can even get classes with me. That all depends on your level of involvement. But the important thing is go over, check it out, and see if it's right for you. It's patreon.com/Alberto Alonso. Oh, and the second you sign up, you have access to thousands of posts. Audio posts, video posts, excerpts from my book, classes, there's a wealth, a treasure trove of English content that will be available to you the second you sign up. So check it out. It's on patreon.com/Alberto Alonso. And I'd like to send a shout out to all my patrons, especially my super duper students, Marta, Javier, and Paco, and my interstellar students, Carmen, Lina, Isa, Paco, David, Jose Maria, and Edgar. Keep up the great work, folks. And those of you who haven't joined us yet, what are you waiting for? Also, don't forget I have a daily radio show. It's on Vaughn Radio. You can search for The Show with No Name. It's a 2-hour live show every day, and you can interact with me. I also have 5 books, all designed to help you enjoy the learning process and laugh out loud. In fact, before we get going, let me give you guys a little excerpt from my latest book, This Book is the Shit. In this audio, we look at the silent B. Give it a listen. I think it's the bomb.
Bueno, pues ya que hemos terminado, nos echamos un Tomb Raider y nos jugamos unas partiditas.
Is this your new friend, tu nuevo amigo, Tom Raider?
Tomb Raider, tío, el juego este
¿Quién
que
es
es
Tom?
de Lara Croft.
Oh, Tomb Raider?
Tomb Raider, eso. Es que los ingleses tienen la manía de poner la B muda y es que no hay Dios que se aclare. Vale, vamos
Ingleses y americanos.
Y
ojo.
americanos, sí.
Inglés no
queremos
soy, ¿eh?
ofender a nadie, ¿eh?
No.
Vale, o sea, vamos a ver, la palabra dumb.
No, la B es muda. Dumb.
Dumb, vale.
Don't be dumb, no seas tonto.
Vale. Don't be
Es como
dumb.
si fuera D-U-M. O sea, imagínate,
Muda.
quiero que cogéis esta lista de palabras y tacha la B en tu cabeza.
Vale.
Cross it out.
Vamos con ella, vale. Thumb, no.
Thumb.
Thumb,
Acaba con M, pura
Vale.
y dura. Thumb.
vale. Numb.
I feel numb, too much is not enough. O la de I've become so numb. Linkin Park,
Ah, sí.
numb, entumecido.
Entumecido.
No numb, sino numb.
Numb, vale. Volvemos a Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider, vale. La tumba, vale. Womb.
Womb. Donde naces. Bueno, estás en el womb de tu madre,
Ajá.
cuando eres un bebé.
Vale, es como, no es el vientre, no sé
El
si
vientre, el saco,
es
este es the womb.
Sí, vale. Ok, bomba.
Bomba, yo siempre tengo un truco para esta. Di, mi madre es la bomba.
My mom is the bomb.
Deben rimar.
My mom is the bomb.
My mom is the bomb.
Is the bomb. Vale, ok. Escalar.
Climb.
Climb.
No sabes las veces que he oído climber, ¿no? Climber.
Y si digo I'm climbing,
No, la B no.
Nada.
Es que está ahí solo para confundir.
I'm climbing.
I'm climbing.
I'm climbing. Vale, ok. Peinarse.
Comb.
Comb.
You comb your hair with a comb.
You comb your hair.
También decimos peinar el desierto para buscar algo. To comb the desert, to comb.
Vale, igual que nosotros.
No,
Vale.
en la película Spaceballs, Guerras
Sí.
de la Galaxia, es una
Ese
famosa.
chiste entraba en español porque
Y
nosotros también
funciona, ¿no?
peinamos.
¡Guau! Por
Sí.
fin un chiste que
Por
funciona.
fin. Sí, señor. Duda.
Doubt.
Doubt, no doubt. Vale.
Doubt.
No doubt. No.
Yeah, doubt.
Doubt. Vale.
I doubt it.
Deuda,
Debt.
debt.
Es
Vale.
D-E-T. La B fuera. Debt.
Fuera, completamente, es un 100%
Di esta
fuera.
frase. I doubt he has any debt.
I doubt he has any debt.
Dudo que tenga deudas.
I doubt he has any debt. Además es mucho más fácil realmente, lo difícil es meter la B, o sea
Yeah.
que nos complicamos la vida para nada.
Yeah, it's very subtle.
Es muy sutil.
La B no se pronuncia tampoco. Subtle.
Subtle.
Subtle. A ver si pueden encontrar más, porque seguro que hay más palabras con esa B muda. Y con todos estos vídeos lo que deberíais hacer es añadir a estas listas tus ejemplos, en voz alta, aloud.
There you go, amigos. That is from my book, This Book is the Shit, available wherever fine books are sold. And we're going to wrap up the first part today with a quote from John Lennon, the one and only John Lennon. We've got this gift of love, but love is like a precious plant. You can't just accept it and leave it in the cupboard, or just think it's going to get on by itself. You've got to keep watering it. You've got to really look after it and nurture it. I think John Lennon was on to something there. And to be on to something means tiene razón. I hope you guys enjoyed the first part, and I hope you'll join us in the bonus episode of this week's FYI.